Tonight on America's Hope, the World Health Organization is implementing new programs that have some people quite concerned. We'll talk about it. And we'll also focus on our military veterans and how they can overcome moral injuries. We'll introduce you to the Heroes to Heroes program. America's Hope starts now. From the NTD Global Headquarters in New York, I'm Kelly Wright, and this is America's Hope. Good evening. Thank you for joining us this hour. We're glad that you're here, and we do hope that you're safe and well, taking care of yourself and your family, because you matter. You know what? Your health matters, and the WHO realizes that, and because of that, the World Health Organization says in the interest of your health, they're implementing new measures. Well, some of those measures have caused some concern for people who are saying we must not allow globalism to come into America and replace our national sovereignty. We're going to talk about that tonight with Reggie Littlejohn. And we're also going to shift and go to the military, our military veterans. We're so proud of the service that they render to defend our freedom. And as I've stated often on this program, freedom ain't free. It costs something. And for those who have survived combat and war, well, there's a price that they've paid. It's called moral injury. We'll talk about that with Judy Isaacson Elias, founder of Heroes to Heroes. Let's get started. And welcome back to America's Hope. My first guest coming up is Reggie Littlejohn. Before we introduce you to her, I want to point out something that's been going on that she's painfully aware of, but some of you may not be up to date on it. U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra recently determined that, quote, there is a significant potential for a public health emergency that has a significant potential to affect national security or the health and security of the United States citizens living abroad. Now, this declaration, according to what we're hearing, clears the way for the Commissioner of the United States Food and Drug Administration to issue emergency use authorization, EUAs, for avian flu vaccines with no liability for the manufacturers. Is some of this sounding familiar with you? Such a determination would enable him to bring to bear powers conferred on him by the recently adopted agreement amending the WHO's, that's the World Health Organization's, international health regulations. It may also give power to the Secretary to seize the pretext for hastily completing a sweeping new and even more problematic pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response treaty. So to talk about this is Reggie Littlejohn, and she has quite a vast amount of experience in understanding any move towards a globalist or one world view of looking at things. In fact, you have actually made a statement about this, Reggie, because you're quite concerned about what the World Health Organization is doing. And you've been voicing your concern about this for a number of months, in fact, years. Talk to us about your reaction to this.
Well, it's very, very concerning, Kelly. So I was in Geneva for the June 1st passage of the amendments to the international health regulations. And these amendments are very, very problematic. What they do is they give the World Health Organization a framework in which to install a global totalitarian police surveillance state. I have been saying for years that I was very concerned that COVID-19 was just basically, it was like a first trial, it was a trial run of what I call the digital gulag, a way of actually trapping us in a surveillance state that was going to come out, and I hope I'm wrong, before the 2024 election. Because if we're going to be in a state of emergency, that could be used as a pretext for requiring mail-in ballots, which can be easily tampered with. I hope I'm wrong. Okay, so what's giving me the heebie-jeebies about this is the actual provisions that were passed by the World Health Organization on June 1. What happened was actually very troubling, and if anybody wants to question that, just look at Tedros Ghebreyesus's victory speech. I mean, he was so excited. You know, he had this. He says, "Tonight we have all won, and the world has won." I mean, what did they win? Okay, I'll tell you what they won. Here's the first thing they won. In the amended international health regulations, they established a national, what I call a national WHO czar. All right. So Article 4 says responsible authorities, it requires all state parties, so nations are state parties, the United States is a state party, to create one or more of two entities, the National IHR, that's International Health Regulations Authority, and the National IHR Focal Point. These entities shall, okay, so this is, required, shall coordinate the implementation of these regulations within their jurisdiction, and the implementation shall include adjusting their domestic, legislative, and or administrative arrangements. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that in the United States and in every other country in the world, because these amendments have passed, if we don't reject them within 10 months, which is now more like 8.5 months, if they just go into force, every country is going to have like an IHR czar whose responsibility is the implementation of the regulations, who's going to be answering to the World Health Organization, not going to be answering to the United States or to the people of the United States, and it's going to be implementing legislation at the national, state, and local level. So this is a direct destruction of our national sovereignty. We're going to have somebody on U.S. soil that answers to the WHO, that's making sure that all of our legislation supports these regulations. The international health regulations have to be interpreted together with the new pandemic treaty, which is still being negotiated. And in that pandemic treaty, there's quite a bit about surveillance, including One Health. There's something called One Health, which is a construct that links human health with animal health, with plant health, with the environment. And so what it does is it brings all of these within the jurisdiction of the World Health Organization, and therefore all of these aspects of life on Earth need to be surveilled. Where does this come in the document? Well, it comes in this document. It establishes mandatory health IDs, and so the document says they can be either paper or they can be digital, based on whatever the country's preferences. I have no doubt that the developed world is going to require digital IDs, and these digital IDs, the pretext for them is for to track our health, right, and also vaccination status. About this time last year, the World Health Organization, together with the European Union, began to roll out international interoperable digital IDs. Mm. And this is what I mean about the Tower of Babel. These are international, they're interoperable. So they can be read because they're meant to assist with travel, right? So they can be read by any government, which means that the Chinese government is going to have access to our data. And what kind of data is that going to be? Well, the World Health Organization document references digital IDs. It does not say what they would consist of, but if you go over to the World Economic Forum website, they've got a chart about digital IDs to show what they're going to be used for. But these health IDs, you're going to need one in order to access your bank account. Okay, just let that sink in, that alone. Okay, to travel, to own a communications device like a cell phone or a computer, to have a social media account, to post online, to vote, to pay your taxes. How are you going to pay your taxes if you don't have a digital ID? And what are they going to do to you if you don't pay your taxes? So they're trying to force everybody into this. And so since you need this digital ID to access all these various aspects of life digitally, they're also tracking you on all of these various aspects of life digitally. And that is the Western version of the China social credit system. Yeah. Which is how I got involved with this. As you know, Kelly, I started out in, my original organization, Women's Rights Without Frontiers, is about, human rights in China, especially the rights of women and girls. So I've seen the effects of the China social credit system. And that's why I turned my attention to this when I saw these digital IDs,
Hmm.
and the fact that they could be bringing the China social credit system to the United States and worldwide. And the things that's really scary about it is that the infrastructure began to be set up during COVID-19, but now they're way ahead of now. They're years later, and this is well developed. So they basically have the infrastructure to do this, to trap us with these digital IDs.
Hi, everybody. I hope you're enjoying this episode so far of America's Hope. If you'd like to see it in its entirety, just click on the link below. Thanks for watching.